Apologies if you've been waiting a while for this. That goes out to all my clients. I've been promising them this video for a long time. But we're here now. We're going to speak about everything to do with posing. We're going to go through mandatories. We're going to go through a few hints and tips, a few tricks, and most importantly as well, things like check-ins. How to set your camera up, what setup you need, what I require as a coach or coaches out there would want to see. The worst thing possible from a coach is when you get one of these. Back shot, mirror, selfie, or bathroom mirror, ab shot, selfie. It's not what we want to see. Also, clients who stand fully relaxed, there is absolutely nothing, well, I wouldn't say nothing, but very little we as a coach can see from that. When we say relaxed, we mean a relaxed stance in bodybuilding terms is like a front on or side on, but core, pecs, delts, arms, legs, all need to be flexed. Whether your body fat is higher to the point where you can't really see much definition or not, being totally flexed gives us as a coach what we need in terms of assessing your body composition, along with your weight and metrics and other feedback things that we're working on from that week to assess whether we need to increase or drop food or increase output, decrease output, etc. We can't do anything really with a relaxed shot, and it's led me to some uncomfortable conversations with clients whereby I'm saying, are you tensing your abs or are you like sticking them out? Nice, tight core, sucked in. So that's check-ins, and that's how we want you to present your physique. Now, from relaxed pose of the bodybuilder, if you're going on stage, you need to consider a few things. With every pose we're going to go through today, you want to think about setting yourself up from the ground, feet, upwards. And then, when you're in that pose, it's literally a matter of practicing that and perfecting it so it's all natural and you don't let anything relax. So, let's talk about legs. You want, I would say, if you look at your shoulders, slightly narrower than shoulder width apart, and I mean that with your heels. Your toes are going to point slightly outwards. I'm going to stand back so you can see my feet here. So your toes are going to point slightly outwards, but if you see my heels, they really are in line with the back of my nipples. You don't want to be too wide. Remember Milos taking the piss out of Derek Lunsford for riding the horse? People do that to make their legs look wider, but if you haven't got big legs in the adductor area, you're going to create a huge gap, and it's going to offset your proportions massively and make your legs look even weaker if that's why you're trying to make them look bigger. You're going to go the opposite way and make them look even smaller. So, there you go. Heels to nipples, toes to shoulders, because they're going to point out and be wider. Then what you're going to do is you're going to squat your weight down without squatting. So you're going to take a little squat down, so you're pushing your weight through the floor, through your heels, and you're going to try and push your knees outwards. And watch what happens when I push my knees outwards. So down, out. By pushing out, your hip flexors are activated, which is going to pull your lines all the way up to the hips. You've heard Ron Harris on the podcast most probably say, split to the hips, and that's what we want. We want a nice little subtle squat down, so the weight transfers downwards, knees push outwards, and the next trick is hips push backwards, and that will activate the hip flexors even more. So do that from the side. Plant feet down, knees go out, hips go back. It's a little subtle hip tilt, but if you imagine the quads at the top on a piece of string, and that string is attached to your hips, when your hips go back, that string tightens and it almost like pulls your legs up, right? So that's legs. Feet plant, heels in, toes out, weight down, outwards, hips back. We're going to settle for our front relax up top. We want to be as wide as possible. So we're going to flex the lats. We're going to stand tall, so we're nice and wide. We want to lean forward a little bit because remember, the judges are down in front of us. So we don't want to be leaning back like this because that's going to offset our proportions to the judges. We want to be slightly lean forward, which is going to emphasize the hip tilt even more, which is going to emphasize the quads. Keep them lats wide, slightly in forward, and you're going to have to find your own position here. Some people narrower, some people wider, not too wide where you disappear in your lats. You want that gap to be a little bit, not too much, and no gap at all is not good. So there. I would say, if you look at my upper arm here, that is about a 45-degree angle, right, to the floor. So there. Maybe that's 45, maybe a little bit higher, so 55, 60 degrees. Job done. That's the front relaxed pose. What minute are we on here? 6 minutes. Wow, this is good. This is going to be a long one. When we say quarter turn to the right, from front relaxed pose, we're going to take our body round, our feet, contrary to what some people might think, if we're looking at that and that as a 90-degree angle, so straight forward to looking right is 90 degrees. We don't want our feet directly 90 degrees. What a lot of people tell you to do is go past 90, so your toes are pointing away. We don't want to do that either. We actually want to leave our feet pointing towards just shallow of 90 degrees, because think of it this way. Rotation in our hips, some people are going to be better than others, but if we're trying to rotate with our feet beyond 90, it's going to be very hard to get all the way around. It's going to be easier if we're at 90 degrees, but it's going to be even easier if we're just maybe 80 degrees here, right? So that's the aim. Be pointing just at an angle before you get to 90 degrees. Your hamstring leg is going to come slightly in front, so your heels here are your back leg, your heel is popping out a little bit more, and that's because when we turn, we're going to be pressing our hamstring here, our front hamstring, against our rear leg to hopefully push that hamstring out a little bit more, make it look a bit fatter. So, front foot, a little bit forward, that's going to be pushed against the other leg when we twist. We want to set our core first, after obviously the legs, but really all we've got to transfer and think about with the legs on a side pose is maybe a little squat down. You see sometimes when you squat down you get a bit of detail in your quads. We don't want to be like this, and maybe you look better if you're completely straight, because when you lean you've got a nice hamstring and glute tying that comes in. So it's a little bit of playing around with what looks best for you, and a bit of coach feedback with how you're looking. What we're going to do is little squat, don't forget to tense the glutes, contract the core, and whilst you're breathing on stage, a good thing to do here is actually show your back to the audience so you can take a deep breath. And when we're here, we're as wide as possible showing the back. Deep breath in, and then we're going to breathe out on the way back round here. And that's going to get all the air out of the core, nice flat stomach. Here we want to show the chest, so this arm is coming across. That arm isn't back too far because we're making a huge gap there, which is going to make us look smaller. So arm by the side, but not hiding the obliques, just a little bit back. We don't want to hide the glutes too much, so that twist there. And the further you can twist round, the wider your shoulders are going to look, the wider you are going to look on stage, and the better your proportions and shape's going to look as well. So, we don't want to be just there because we look narrow. We want to be there. Core contracted, looking forward. That's the side shot. Turn to the right. You'll repeat that when you turn to the other side. I'll show you the back. So, same foot position and emphasis from the front to the back, but this time we're really going to concentrate on squeezing those glutes hard. The way to do that is, instead of hip tilting backwards, we're going to hip tilt forwards like a hip thrust. So hip thrust forward, spread the lats. Here, you want to concentrate on squeezing your adductors, because that is going to show on stage when you lean from the back. So glutes tight, adductors tight, hamstrings tight, back wide. And then another little trick, if you tense your abs, that will contract your lower back. So hamstrings, adductors, glutes, wide, abs. Okay? Perfect. That concludes quarter turns. We'll move on to mandatories.